but it actually goes a lot further than that as well. Now, also, Trump raised the possibility of invoking the law going back to his 2024 campaign. He was saying it on the campaign trail, and now with his anti-crime efforts, his use of terror designations against gangs, Antifa, maybe other far-left organizations, which he has now talked about, they're ordering, it's going through, and with his attempts to use the National Guard to protect ICE agents to carry out deportations, which are being blocked by many states and local authorities, the possibility that Trump may actually invoke the law is becoming very real. He's saying he might do it. They're talking about doing it. The justification for doing it is there. He might do it. And Trump actually brought up the possibility last week at the Oval Office. Watch this.
President,
What?
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
Now, that's interesting, right? If President Trump is saying he might do it, that's one thing. If people around him are saying Donald Trump might do it, you know what that suggests? That suggests they're talking about it. That suggests word is going around. That suggests the issue has been raised and it's being deliberated. And guess what? On Sunday, Vice President J.D. Vance also talked about the ability, once again, on NBC's Meet the Press. Watch this.
Are you seriously considering invoking the Insurrection Act?
Well, the president's looking at all of his options. Right now, he hasn't felt he needed to, but we have to remember, why are we talking about this, Kristen? Because crime has gotten out of control in our cities, because our ICE agents, the people who are enforcing our immigration laws, have faced a 1,000% increase in violent attacks against them. We have people right now who are going out there, who are doing the job the president asked them to do, who are enforcing our immigration laws. They're being assaulted, they're being beaten, they're being shot at. The problem here is not the Insurrection Act or whether we actually invoke it or not. The problem is the fact that the entire media in this country, cheered on by a few far-left lunatics, have made it okay to tee off on American law enforcement.
Yeah.
We cannot accept that in the United States of America. We want everybody, black or white, rich or poor, to be safe in the United States of America. But to do that, we have to empower our law enforcement agencies to keep us safe. That's what we're talking about doing.
Interesting stuff, right? So, what is the Insurrection Act? Like, what does it actually do, right? The Epoch Times had a breakdown on it. It's pretty good. It said the law currently being considered by the administration has its roots in the 1792 legislation that allowed the federal government to call up state militias to, quote, execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasions. Because, very early on, of course, George Washington believed there was an insurrection among the democratic societies. He believed these were anti-constitution forces. He believes they were the main force behind the Whiskey Rebellion. George Washington called up the Continental Army, put down their rebellion. Now, it says here as well, the 1807 Insurrection Act expanded the original legislation, adding additional powers for the president, including the ability to deploy active duty federal troops. Federal meaning not even just the National Guard, like the military, like the full-on military. Not saying National Guard in the military, but full thing as well. Without the request or support of state government actors under limited circumstances. And what those limited circumstances be, we'll get into it. But it says this. It says it provides some of the only exceptions to the Posse Comitatus Act, which is an 1878 law that generally forbids the use of military against American citizens. It says those exceptions include suppressing insurrections. An insurrection, people are trying to overthrow the government. Like if you're declaring you're going to start a communist revolution or create a global intifada, or, for example, do something to try to remove a sitting president from office by, spreading disinformation and then weaponizing the legal system to target him and his allies. Technically, that would be an insurrection. It could also be on enforcing federal authority. For example, if a state is blocking federal law enforcement, if hypothetically speaking, if ICE is going somewhere and they're trying to deport people and they're being attacked and the local government is not enforcing federal authority, they're allowing them to be attacked, rocks thrown at them, you could kind of declare an insurrection. You could actually use this. And also it says protecting civil rights when state authorities fail to act. So the civil rights of Americans, what could that include? Well, this is important because what did Trump recently declare in his executive actions? Remember Trump's recent action ordering the investigations of the hit piece machine, the mobilization machine, the funding behind groups like Antifa. You actually have the No Kings protests coming back. They just announced a new round of protests. Over 190 organizations wrapped up into that. Basically fomenting, actions against, you could say it's for the elections, but fomenting action against ICE, against the president, and against, basically everything he's doing. The big issue Trump raised, though, in that document is important because it ties directly into this, protecting civil rights when state authorities fail to act, ties directly into this, which could also be used as justification. And this is what it said. It says that these systems of cancel culture, mobilizing people towards violence, of attacking anybody who dares speak out, making people too afraid to speak out, groups like Antifa terrorizing people if they dare to speak out. They say that what this does in effect, it is depriving American citizens of their rights. Violations of the rights of the American citizens, meaning I cannot freely exercise my freedom of speech. I cannot exercise the freedom of the press. I cannot exercise the freedom of my belief or the right to mobilization because I'm too afraid of being doxxed, attacked, and terrorized. And Trump is now labeling those systems as terrorist factions. Meaning, in what is happening right now, Trump has actually set up the justification to declare the Insurrection Act. Now, further in it says this, the president is authorized upon the request of a state legislature or governor. And, some governors are more pro-Trump, many are not, especially the ones where you have issues like this. But state legislatures would be easier because, conservatives do have more control over that, over state legislatures, even in places where the governor might be a Democrat. State legislatures do lean more Republican. But also the state legislature level, you have a lot of areas where you have freedom caucuses, which are very, Trump-aligned free type caucuses within the state legislature. It says they can call into service or request Trump to call into service the militia or other states to assist in suppressing an insurrection. And it's important to note this would be in addition to the other elements because this is about state militias. And that's, of course, the National Guard, right? The militia technically would be the National Guard, at least in terms of what the state could call in, like the official system for it. Remember, too, though, that the Insurrection Act is not limited just to militias or the National Guard. It's federal. It's also federal military, meaning this is an additional power. It says this as well, though. The president is required to order insurgents to disperse and retire peaceably when activating any of these provisions. And last I checked, Donald Trump has given many warnings like this. People don't take it that seriously. But his statements on Truth Social, warning these groups, telling them to disperse, to stand down, to quote-unquote retire, Trump has done that. I think according to law, he's done more than enough to justify it by this point. And not to say he won't just make a straight up post, disperse and retire, or I will come down upon thee. He might do that too. Now, notes here, though, this is not the first time this would happen. The last time it says a law was invoked was 1992. That was President George H.W. Bush. That was his term amid the deadly riots in Los Angeles. It says following a jury acquittal of Los Angeles Police Department officers after the arrest and beating of Rodney King. That was, of course, black man. There was more details to it, but police did, have some issues with use of force, let's say. That sparked large-scale riots in Los Angeles. There's the famous images, for example, or videos of people celebrating. They pulled a man, a truck driver's car, smashed his head with a rock. These are the protesters. You had people looting, burning. It was terrible. And President Bush at the time did call in the Insurrection Act to put that down. And anybody notably who was on the streets during the LA riots got a felony. So it was very serious. And notes this. Decades before, the Insurrection Act was invoked in the 1960s in response to state resistance to federal desegregation efforts during the civil rights movement. On that point, President Trump has ordered investigations into the funding networks behind far-left political violence in the United States. We'll be talking more about this after we come back from a quick break. Into the funding networks behind far-left political violence in the United States. And this could result in racketeering charges and even terror designations. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel is saying the agency is following the money. They're moving forward with something. They're looking into the groups and individuals who are financing and organizing groups like Antifa and even others engaged in political violence and intimidation. NTD, the sister media of the Epoch Times, aired an exclusive interview with Kash Patel on this. This was from his appearance on the Armstrong Williams show. Watch.
Matters like Antifa, for example, right? And the new EO that the president signed and their designations giving us authorities that we never had. What we are able to do is the one thing I've done my entire career under investigations: follow the money. Serve legal process and follow the money. These groups just don't show up overnight. You don't have hundreds of people surround the courthouse overnight and then move down to LA and cause riots and then move halfway across the country and cause disruptions in Chicago and elsewhere. It is an organized effort that someone or some groups are paying for. And what I can tell the American people is we have open investigations on multiple groups and individuals funding these efforts. We have legal process that has already been executed. The search warrant results are coming in. But also remind the American people that they want, or not they, the American public, for the most part, understands that it takes time to develop these complicated investigations. But in the days of social media and the 24/7 news cycle, people want immediacy. And if you abide by that requirement, then you will fail in your investigative duties. Yes, I think Antifa, specifically speaking, as an example, we have to recognize these groups for what they are. If we as a society just allow these riots to continue, then we as a society are going to be engulfed by the criminal activity these people are doing. LA, you can't attack law enforcement. You can't throw rocks and boulders at law enforcement. You can't in DC assault law enforcement. In Portland, you can't set fire to a federal building and get away with it. How is that acceptable? And it's all being caused. It's not individual acts of violence. It is organized anarchy and chaos. And thanks to the president's initiatives, and when I was there in the Oval Office when he signed it, we are getting after the fight with more resources and tools than we've ever had.
Now, that's a pretty big deal. Because, you know, what that suggests is that Trump's order didn't just fall on deaf ears. Yeah, and we did see that, let's be honest with ourselves. You know, Trump's first term in office, a lot of what he said, you know, do it, carry out the orders. His administration oftentimes was working against him. And so what Kash is suggesting here is that this is not just falling on deaf ears. This is not an empty order. He's saying that they are actually doing something. Now, you know, Kash Patel being the head of the FBI, he can't talk about specifics, especially if there's an ongoing investigation, but he does talk about, quote unquote, following the money. And that's important because that's what Trump said to do, basically. Look at who's funding these groups, who's behind it, who's organizing it, get the entire network, hit them with RICO. That's what Trump is saying. And Kash says they have multiple investigations into who is funding the individuals starting up protests and various other activities that we're seeing, meaning a lot of organizations, frankly. There's a lot of them behind it. One of the big ones that has been named, including in the recent White House briefing, is the Tides Foundation. Important note as well, Tides Foundation also gets money and tied in with other things. It's also tied in with some of the major, you know, kind of far-left movements. It's tied into actually the Wikipedia parent company, the group behind Wikipedia. They're actually part of Tides. And also they get a lot of money from Google. And that could be a very big deal. Now, Kash Patel on this, he also talks about the use of RICO, right? Racketeering charges, things that take down a mafia. And Kash notes groups like Antifa and the mass protests we're seeing where people are, you know, being attacked by, you know, attacking federal agents. Kash notes these are not individual acts of violence. It is organized acts of chaos. Organized as in organized crime. Because what they're saying is that if you're carrying out crime in an organized manner, what does that mean? You are an organized criminal syndicate. And they have now been labeled also as terrorists. That's a very big deal on this. Like on another topic, though, The government shutdown's still underway, and among the big arguments, hey, what do you want to reopen it? Well, it turns out the thing they want to reopen it is tax dollars to give free health care to illegal aliens, people who are not citizens of the United States. Now, it's being framed in other ways. They're not saying, hey, we want to give free health care to all the illegal aliens. They're saying we want to give free health care to everyone, including illegal aliens. And this is now bringing more attention to the issue, actually. People are becoming aware of it. Americans are paying attention to it. And it's not looking so good. Let's just put it that way. It turns out, at least in Oregon, more money is going to fund free health care to illegal aliens than is even being given to fund the local police. Daily Caller said this. It said Oregon will spend more in its current budget period on free health care for immigrants, they mean illegal aliens here, regardless of legal status, than on state police by $500 million or more, according to state officials and budget documents. So, folks, next time you go and, write your taxes to the IRS, next time you pay that good old sales tax, next time, you're wanting to just, pay good old Uncle Sam, just remember your tax dollars are helping your local illegal alien get free health care. And rest assured that you're helping those poor folks. And notes here that Oregon officials expect to spend $1.5 billion in combined state and federal taxpayer dollars on a program that offers health benefits to illegal aliens from 2025 to 2027. They expect to spend $717 million on Oregon State Police over the same period, the documents indicate, meaning about double the budget. About twice the amount you're spending on police is going to pay for free health care for illegal aliens. Now, it says the state's health agency, the Oregon Health Authority, said in an email to the Daily Caller News Foundation that the state expects to allocate $1.2 billion to the program, originally named, quote, Cover All People, and now called the Healthier Oregon Program. Presumably they changed the name because people now understand what it means to cover all people. Because, that's the political slogan right now. Healthcare for everyone. That's the political slogan, and it doesn't work like it used to. It used to be cover everybody. You're like, okay, me, my kids, my neighbors, my family. Not cover everyone, as in literally everyone. It says Oregon lays out budgets in 2-year bienniums, and the federal government will supply 25% of the funding to provide health benefits to illegal aliens in Oregon, the OHA told the Daily Caller News Foundation. So it's real. But on that point, actually, free healthcare for illegals is actually becoming a pretty sensitive topic. Not like you can't talk about it, but this is becoming politically really damaging for Democrats. And actually, the federal shutdown, Trump basically the Democrats shutting it down, but Trump repeatedly just blaming them for it. Trump repeatedly saying this is theirs and saying, look, the reason it's shut down is because they wanted to give free healthcare to illegal aliens so badly that they were willing to do this. That is the degree of importance they place on giving free healthcare to illegal immigrants. And that's becoming really politically damaging to them. So much so that actually a lot of Democrats now are actually making an effort to end this system. They're actually backing off it. They're trying to bring an end to it. It's actually changing things. National Review said this. It says President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration has earned no shortage of condemnation from progressive governors across the country. So it may be surprising that many blue state leaders are quietly rolling back health coverage for people without legal status. Interesting, right?